Fractions of an amount. What is a fraction of an amount? A fraction of an amount represents a part of a whole, where the fraction indicates the size of that part. It's like finding a specific portion of a larger quantity. So here I have 1/4 of 8 equals 2. So 8 is my whole. 1/4 of that 8 is 2 parts. How to calculate a fraction of an amount? So to find a fraction of a given amount, you need to divide the total amount by the denominator, which is the bottom number, and multiply the result by the numerator, which is the top number. So for example, what is 2/5 of 25? If I divide 25 by 5, so 5 being my denominator, my bottom number, my answer is 5. I take that result and I multiply it by my numerator, which is my top number. My top number is 2 in this case, so 5 times 2 will equal 10. So therefore, 2/5 of 25 is 10. In Year 1, children use previous knowledge of recognising half and quarters, and they apply this to recognising half and quarters of a quantity. They need to have a good understanding of the number of elements in a set. They will need to show how the total can be shared equally into 2 or 4 groups. Concrete resources such as cubes, beads, counters, buttons, pasta, etc. can be used to support learning. Anything you have around the house is a great resource for you to use. These are some examples. So first they would recognise a half. So they would look at examples and they would need to know that it has to be into 2 equal parts. So the 6 grapes has to be in 2 equal groups. And again, circle half of the pencils, 6 pencils again. They can still use concrete resources and they can divide their 6 into 2 equal groups. And it works the same for recognising quarters and finding a quarter, but obviously this time it would be into 4. In Year 2, they build on their learning from Year 1. Children deepen their understanding of a half and a quarter and are introduced to 1/3 and 3/4. Children should be able to identify if a shape has been split into equal parts and if each part represents a half or a quarter. Once confident with their understanding of a half and quarter, they are introduced to the formal notation for fractions for the first time. In this case, they will be introduced to half, quarter, 1/3 and 3/4. They can compare the written notation for these and identify what the digits represent. Children are also introduced to the terms numerator and denominator for the first time. So here they have a question of share the fish into 4 tanks. So here we are going to be finding a quarter. So first of all, they would have to count their fish. They would then have to see how many fish there are in each of the tanks, and then they would know a quarter of the amount. So here the fish have been divided into the 4 tanks. So there are 12 fish in total. There are 3 fish in each of the 4 tanks, so therefore a quarter of 12 is 3. Because you're looking at one of the tanks. Here's another question where Mo and Kim have 12 tennis balls. Share the tennis balls equally between Mo and Kim. So Mo and Kim, that's 2 people. So you have 2 circles. You would divide your 12 tennis balls to see how many each of them have. And you can represent fractions of amount in a bar chart, a bar model. And here we have 1/3 of 6, so we'd have a bar model divided into 3 parts, and you would divide your 6 equally into those 3 parts, and then you would look at one of the parts because your numerator is 1. And here you are looking at non-unit fractions, which means that the numerator is greater than 1, and you would start with finding 1/4 of the strawberries and then 2/4 of the strawberries. So for 2/4 of the strawberries, you'd be looking at 2 of the plates. For 3/4 of the strawberries, you would count up how many are on 3 of the plates. And of course, 4/4 is the whole amount. In Year 3 and 4, children learn how to find unit fractions of a set of objects and connect this to what they already know about dividing quantities into equal parts using known division facts. Children use their knowledge that the denominator tells them how many parts or equal parts the whole is divided into, and the numerator tells them how many parts of the whole there are. For example, to find 3/4 of an amount means dividing the whole into 4 equal parts, because your denominator is 4, then finding the total of 3 of those parts. Bar models are very useful to model this process, as children can label each part and see how to find the total for the number of parts they need. So here Eva has 12 toy cars. 1/4 of the cars are red. So how many red cars are there? So first of all, we have our 12 cars represented as our dots. And we will then look at our fraction. Because it's 1/4, we look at our denominator to show that we need to have 4 circles or 4 boxes. And then we will divide our counters equally into the 4 boxes. And then we will look at our numerator, which is one of the parts, and we can see it is 3. So therefore 12 divided by 4 is 3, so 1/4 of 12 equals 3. Here we're looking at a non-unit fraction, so Mo has 12 toy cars again, but this time she has 2/3 of the cars are blue. So how many cars are blue? So again we have 12. This time our denominator is 3, so we need to have 3 boxes. And then we are going to look at our numerator, which means that we're looking at 2 parts. So 2 out of the 3 equals 8, because you will count them up. So 12, 2/3 of 12 is 8. In Year 5 and 6, children find fractions of amounts using more pictorial and abstract methods, rather than relying on concrete resources. Bar models are useful tools to help represent this mathematical concept and can also help to show links between finding unit fractions of amounts and non-unit fractions of amounts. Children initially use timetable facts, then move on to solve calculations that go beyond these. So their multiplication and their division facts are really important to know. So here we have 1/7 of 42. So our whole is our 42 and we have our 7 parts. And if you know your division facts, 42 divided by 7 will equal 6. So each part is worth 6. And as if we look at our numerator, we are needing one of those parts. So our answer is 6. 1/7 of 42 equals 6. So tips for teaching fractions of an amount. Use concrete, pictorial, abstract approach. You start with those tangible objects, move them around into those different groups. Look at visual representations as well. Use real life context, so relate fractions to everyday situations such as sharing food or dividing money. Encourage hands-on activities, incorporate games, cooking and arts and crafts to make this learning really engaging. And address any misconceptions, so clarify that common misunderstanding, such as the belief that a larger denominator always means a larger fraction.